We've got the recording started, and today our instructor is Christion Sadler. Here is the leader of Team Elevate. He is, I bet there's not a day goes by he doesn't spend at least an hour thinking and planning and organizing for our benefit, for the benefit of our guests and our businesses. And he is a selfless person. He is always thinking of others. And you know what? When he's working on his business, he is so driven and dedicated. He has accomplished deals that have netted hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're excited to have him with us this morning. Christion, how are you today?
I'm great, Ron. How are you?
Fantastic. Glad you're here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. And, really, I'm glad that I have you here.
Well, thank you.
These calls start off the right way with great attitude, and great music to start us off, and a message. And man, it's powerful having you here and taking on this role and being a part of this community. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that you're part of the team here, and excited to speak with you guys today. So I think we coined today Think Rich Thursday, right? So Think Rich Thursday. It's also game day for most of us. And what I mean by game day is not it's time to play, but what I mean is it's time to work, right? We've got our 4 pillars presentation tonight in Sandy, which also includes study groups, and it includes Spanish, and it includes onboarding, and it includes follow-up. I mean, we have a whole wing of the college here in Utah that we rent out. Literally, we are to the point where we're growing out of space, and we're going to be renting more than a whole wing of college. So it's pretty cool what we've got going on here. Regardless, you know what day it is, but let's talk about overcoming objections. So I had an interesting experience yesterday where I had a follow-up that I was doing with an individual. We was doing it over Zoom, and he was in the office with some team members out in Idaho, and came up with kind of an objection at the end. And at first, I asked a really good question, and then, silly me, I turned around and used a statement. And statements rarely move people forward. I think it got him, I believe it got him thinking. I believe that it, caused him to at least have some introspection. However, it didn't force him to be in accountability right there on the spot. And so, for my own good and for the good of everybody on the call, I want to practice some questions to overcome objections. So let me share with you kind of the objection that came up first, and then I'll share with you the question that was moving us in the right direction, and then I'll share with you some questions that I could have asked rather than the statement. So basically, we went through the process. He had seen who we are and what we do. He had spent $7,000 with a different real estate program, and he was going through that program, but he had already admitted and specifically said that he does not believe that it was going to get him where he needed to go. Basically, he said he realizes that he's alone with his computer, with this other education, and he needs to find community and support. And so all the right things, obviously you guys understand he's saying all the right things because we have what he's missing. And I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on other programs too to realize the same thing, that you need that guided support. You need people around you that are moving down the same path. And so at the end, when we went through the 3-phase process of getting into a deal, and he said, yeah, I can do that. He even said, I want to do that in 90 days. He said, and I gave him the opportunity. I didn't tell him how long it would take him. I said, how long do you believe this would take you if you applied, the amount of effort that you're going to apply? And he said, I want to do it in 90 days. Okay, great. So, the next steps are we need to get you to day one. And in order to get you to day one and starting on phase one, there's 3 steps to that. And the first step is let's get your account set up. And the second step is we need to find your funding. And the third step is unlock your education. Have you thought about how you're going to find your funding? Yes, he's already got some ideas on finding the funding. And then came the objection. He said, at this point, what I really want to do, because I had actually turned it back to my team members and said, hey, why don't you guys go through some funding options with him and let me know how I can help. And then I stayed on the line, and they let me just be there in the room because they had me on Zoom, but they were in a conference room actually. And so he came up and as they started asking questions about how to fund it, he said, what I really want to do is I want to first focus on finishing this education that I've paid for already. So I believe that in order to keep that commitment to myself, I want to focus on, getting, finishing this education. They're like, okay, well, what does that look like? I mean, if you're applying yourself and you're going through classes and some of them you're saying don't even relate to what you're wanting to do, like, are we talking a week and a half? He said, oh, no, I think realistically it's probably more likely going to be 2 months. And so, I was still in the conversation at this point. And so they said, Christion, what are your thoughts on that? And I said, well, my question for you is, Mr. Prospect, is your goal to go through information, or is your goal to get into a deal? So that was the question. Questions cause accountability. And so we're going to come up here, and we're actually going to share the screen here. So we're going to use some questions to overcome objections. And so he said, well, obviously, get into a deal, but, I just feel like in order for me to, I just don't want to be the person that wastes money, and I spent $7,000, and so I'm going to, spend it over. I want to make sure that I apply myself over there. And I could feel in my heart that there was actually something else there. And if I would have just asked him the question, I believe I could have pulled it out of him, right? And so instead, this is where I made a statement. I said, here, listen, before I jump off the line, I just got to say, Mr. Prospect, a lot of times when somebody is, going to put off, their education, it's usually something more than what you're saying. It's probably, some type of a fear, maybe a fear of failure, but also possibly a fear of success. And I want to tell you right now that you're going to have opposition. You're going to have people tell you you're dumb and you're crazy. And I just want you to look introspectively at who you're listening to and what the real reasoning is behind you putting off this, your success, basically. Because if you wait 2 months and then you take 90 days, you're literally saying, I want to wait 5 months to get into a deal instead of 3 months to get into a deal. And, I just want you to look inside yourself and ask yourself if it's something more out of fear. And he admitted, he said, all those points are good, and you're actually right on a lot of that. And at that point, they were releasing me from the conversation. And I just realized that if I would have changed that to a question rather than a statement, we could have potentially gotten to the root of this guy's objection, and we could have moved him forward. And, I take accountability where I feel like I did him a disservice. Because quite frankly, folks, if we can't close them, we can't help them. If we can't help them get out of their own way, we don't change their life. And so, again, this training comes out of accountability to myself to remind myself I know all this stuff, and I want to go over some great questions to overcome objections. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put objections over here. Hold on a second. And then questions. What questions can you use to overcome their objections? So let's start with an objection. So, we said on this one, the objection was finish other education. And my good question was, do you want to, I don't think I'm going to be able to write these out. So instead, we're just going to talk about them. So let's do this. All right. His objection was, he wants to finish this other education. My good question was, well, is your goal to go through for information, or is your goal to get into a deal? Do you want results? My next question could have been, if you're putting this off now, it's likely that you're going to find another reason to put this off later. So let me ask you, what is it really that's holding you back, right? You can just call them on their crap. And you're not calling them on it. You're asking them to become accountable to themselves. So here's what I'd like you guys to do. Chat in an objection that you guys have gotten, or that you guys feel like would come up in the follow-up, and let's come up with some questions to overcome them. Go ahead and just chat in. What's an objection you're getting in the follow-up process? When you're moving people forward, what comes up? All right, we got some chats coming in. Bum, 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 bum. All right, I got this yesterday. Be real with me. Is this about to try and sell me courses at the end of this? Because I don't have capital or time to take courses right now. Okay, so this is Sal, and it sounds like this is an objection before they even have gotten the information, is what I'm hearing. And so let's address it anyways. So be real with me. Is this about trying to sell me courses at the end of this because I don't have capital or time to take a course right now? My question would be, then why are we talking? I would put it right back on them, Sal. I would say, then why are we talking? Because if they answered your ad, or if they came down to a presentation, why in the world are we talking if you're saying you don't have capital or time? And another one you could say is, something like, if you don't have capital or time, how in the world do you expect to do real estate? And then they're going to hum and haw, and they're going to, come up with more objections. But really, you can also throw something out there like, well, this, of course, this is about you paying for your own education. Did you expect me to give you all of my time for free? All right. So Sal, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that kind of gets you an idea. All right. So Deslin, I need to think about it before I make a decision. So my question to that would be, okay, great. Let's do that together. What do we need to think about? Let's write out some pros and cons. And then you can start listing them out. What are some of the pros? And help them with that part. Help them come up with as many pros as possible. And then goes through, okay, what are the cons? Don't help them with the cons. Let them deal with it. Let them figure out the cons. What you're going to find is almost always there's more pros than there is cons because usually their cons are like two things, right? I have to spend money. I have to spend time. So, yeah, go through the pros and cons. Help them think about it right now. Say, perfect. Let's do that together. I'd be glad to help you. Hopefully that helps, Des. Think through it. And then at the end, you got to ask a question, remember, right? There's got to be a question at the end. And so say something to the effect of, well, it looks like there's a lot more reasons to do this than not to do this. Are you ready to get started? All right, Melissa Owens. Why do you guys do this? How are you benefiting? So I don't know if that's an objection necessarily, more of a question. And so let's address it anyways. I mean, just share with them honestly. Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Well, I want to be successful in real estate. I see a group of people here that I always want to have around me because they're like-minded. I do this because I have the opportunity to help others find their path to financial freedom. Wouldn't you want to help others if you had a system that worked for you? That's your question. All right, Natalie. I have so much going on right now and decided that I need to hold off on this indefinitely. I need to follow the flow of what is going on right now. Okay. You got that this week, Natalie. So my question to that would be, how has going with the flow, how far has going with the flow gotten you in life so far? And then I would, put it back on them. How long do you want your life to just be a flow rather than a choice? So again, it's all about, these questions are all about putting it back on them. Right? I've got so much going on that. I mean, they probably came down for a reason. They were probably looking for a way out of all of the going onness right now. And so I would just simply ask them, like, how long are you going to let other people choose the direction of your life? How long are you going to let circumstances make the decisions of, the direction of your future? Hopefully that helps. All right, Cody. I really can't take on the extra debt, and I don't know when I'd find the time to do this because I'm working 6 days a week already. And this is where a lot of times I would use a feel, felt, found type of a scenario, Cody. So listen, I know how you feel. In fact, one of my, one of the guys that's helped me a lot, Christion Sadler, felt the same way. He was working 12 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. And for him, he just made a decision that if he didn't do this, then he was going to continue down that path. So how quickly do you want to not have to let the cost and the time make your decisions for you? How long do you want to work 6 days a week? So put it back on them, Cody. And you can use the feel, felt, found, right? So for Christian, he was in a position where he was a steel worker, 12 hours a day, sometimes 7 days a week. He knew he didn't have a lot of time. And in fact, he already had taken out a second mortgage on his house as a debt consolidation loan, and he was still going behind every single month. What he realized, what he found, was that if he continued on that same path, he would be in a worse spot a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. And so what he did was he made the decision that he was going to put in an extra 1 to 2 hours a day and apply it to this business so he could get out of that life that he was stuck in. Are you willing to make the extra effort if it can pull you out of all the work that you're doing right now? Feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. What I found was this business didn't take a whole lot of my time, and I was able to do it in just a couple hours a day. And that's what's going to set me free from giving all of my best time to somebody else to build their dreams. Are you ready to start building your dreams? All right, hopefully that helps. Moving down here, and Wanda. Okay, Wanda, I have an order on hold. She has the money, but got too busy at work, and now she prefers to complete that big project at work to concentrate for the education. I'm not sure how to ask for the money, as I understand how busy she is. She really wants Renatus. Wanda, what you might do is just go to her with concern and say, listen, busy lady, I understand where you're at right now and that you have a lot going on. But here's what I've found. If somebody will allow work to put their getting started on hold now, they're going to find another reason to put it on hold later on. I don't want you to continue to put your life on hold. How about we get you started and we just put as much time as you can in so that you're that much further ahead when this big project finishes up. Sound good? All right, Christy, I want to see what you do with it. Oh, by the way, Wanda, I hope that helps. Christy, I want to see what you do with this education and see what deals you do. And so, Christy, I would really put that back on them at the point I would say, so you know you can't spend my money, right? And then if they, if they continue to say, well, yeah, but I want to see, I want to make sure it works, right? Because that's probably what they're alluding to, I'm guessing, Christy. Because if they say, I want to see what deals you do, you could just say, well, you know you can't spend my money, right? And then they're going to say, well, I just want to make sure this works. And then you can say, okay, great. So are you saying that if I do a deal, then that proves it works and so that you'll get started? Watch what you're doing here. You're leading them, right? And they're gonna say, yes, of course. You're gonna say, great, good news. I can show you if my doing a deal proves that this works. Guess what? Anybody else doing a deal proves that this works as well. If I can introduce you to a bunch of other people that have been successful in utilizing this system to do real estate deals, are you willing to get started? This is what Michael talks about of finding their contradictions, right? Because they're going to say, well, if you can do a deal, then I can do a deal. And if that's their thinking, then we can show them hundreds of people. I mean, literally hundreds, probably thousands of people that have done deals because of this education. So if that's the case, if that's their thinking, good news. They can get started right now. Now, the truth is, you doing a deal has nothing to do with whether they're going to. Your success has nothing to do with whether they'll be successful, because it's always on them. So you can simply say, listen, I can show you as many people as you want to talk to that have been successful with this. So are you willing to get started if I can prove that it's worked for somebody else? And then you can always let them know too, listen, if you're going to find an excuse now, you're going to find an excuse later. So what's the real issue? Is this something that you're serious about, or are you just blowing me off? Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope this helps. I hope that this kind of gets you in the right mindset. I know that it's giving me a good reminder of coming up with questions rather than statements. This is where we trap ourselves into not moving people forward. A statement does not put the accountability back on them. A question causes them to answer. And when they have to answer, they're naturally going to lead themselves into the decision that it's time to move forward. Appreciate you guys joining us here. Get out there and make it happen. It is an incredible week. By the way, we're not putting orders in for April anymore. We're putting orders in for May. So get to it. Oh, there's one more chat. Let me see if there's what was that? Oh, thanks, Cody. Appreciate you. Thanks, everybody.